On this edition of City Profile, I'll be talking with Commissioner Allan Rhodes. Please stay with us. Hello and welcome to City Profile. I'm Tom Butler, and today I have the pleasure of talking with City Commissioner Allan Rhodes, who time had gotten away from me, and you tell me you have now been elected for your third term. And are in the midst of your fourth year of service.
I guess it'd be 4 years and just about 8 months here in a few days.
When you first ran, did you expect this to last this long? Did you have any expectations?
I think I was so shocked when I gained this. And one, I think I was surprised. This is not a career, and I think you should do it for, maybe 6, maybe. I mean, I don't think you should do this for double-digit numbers. Pass them to somebody else. Get new energy and new blood, some new kinds of thoughts, and pass it on.
But you make so much money.
Yes, you do. Somebody said, "Well, you guys aren't meeting on Tuesday nights. It's every other Tuesday." And we had, thanks Jim Paxson for the pleasant editorial that said that's okay. And I thought, well, we may meet every other Tuesday, but you're never very far, or at least I'm never very far away from thinking about it constantly. In fact, there are some nights that Johanna will say, "Okay, Allan, that's enough. Could we like take a break for dinner?" And
well, you mentioned new blood, and in fact, we have some new blood.
We have two.
City administration and brand new mayor.
Yes.
Not involved in politics as long as I know, or I may be wrong, never been elected to a political office.
First political office.
New commissioner.
Yes.
First political office.
I believe so.
So how has that changed the dynamic of the commission?
Well, it always changes because you have a new energy and different focus. I think the interesting thing is that it always seemed like I asked lots of questions, and anymore, a lot of those questions get asked before I ever get a chance to ask, and that's okay. That's okay. But it's fun to have new folks, and not that I'm the wise old owl. Richard he's our longest serving commissioner. I may be the oldest by age, but by work on the commission, Richard Abraham is our senior member.
Well, 4 years is not a long time, but other than new people, what changes have you seen in the city during your tenure?
Oh, I guess the change would not surprise you in that we change by sort of that list of things that go on, and you can tick off many different things, whether it's, okay, recently, like the downtown hotel, I'm not sure we had a lot to do with it, had a little bit, but that was pretty much Glenn Higdon and his company. Or the landing of the second quilt show. Well, here again, John Campbell, the late John Campbell, said to me, "Look, Allan," he said, "think of your job as the groundskeeper at Brooks Stadium. That you make sure the grass is mowed, the dirt is of the right texture, that the bases are 90 feet apart, and so that when something gets ready to happen in the city, that the city is ready to accept it, or at least from private enterprise." And so I think about that because I think about John.
Well, it's interesting because in years past, commissioners and other politicians would run and their main platform would be bringing jobs to Paducah. And if you start really delving down into it, you don't have a lot of control as to who comes in. Like you said, the city should look nice. It should offer certain things that would be attractive to businesses. But then what do you do?
Tom, you're exactly right. I have a real issue with politicians who say, well, during my administration, all these wonderful things happened. Well, my guess is that most of those things, the person who's saying, I claim all this credit, had almost nothing to do with it. He just happened, or she happened to be there when these things happened. Again, does your city have other kind of policies and procedures? And it may not be terribly exciting work, but at the end of the day, it all kind of comes together. Specifically on jobs, and I remember saying this when I was running the very first time, it isn't my job to recruit jobs. It just isn't. Now, is it my duty to see that Paducah, the GPDC, Paducah Economic Development, is funded by the state or the city? Of course it is. And to be supportive and to be, if I can play any role at all, sure. But I'm not hired to go out and land the XYZ box factory. If I can help it come here, so be it.
Well, and that's a question I had too. I detect a little change in philosophy. It used to be like, we want to bring a major corporation here and provide 3,000 or 4,000 jobs in manufacturing, and that seems there's been a shift in thinking. And if I'm correct in perceiving that shift, is it true? And if so, what's the plan now? What do you think that people are focusing on now?
I guess it'd be fair to say, I think that if, for example, the Toyota Mazda deal that the state and Tennessee are battling, I'm sure if they would like to bring it to our industrial development park down by Paducah and Mayfield, I'm sure we'd be happy to have it. I don't think anybody would say, well, no, we don't need that. Maybe it's just a realization that kind of, again, back to the baseball analogy, that a series of single hits and a little base hitting, that you promote what you have and what your strengths are. Now, if you can hit a grand slam home run and get that Toyota Mazda factory, so be it, and that's wonderful. But the chances are probably astonishingly small that you're not going to, because my guess is those jobs are probably parceled out by Frankfurt. I mean, I'm pretty sure that they say, okay, like when the aluminum smelting plant went to Ashland recently, my guess is, and here again, I don't know because I'm not on that decision, but they said, okay, we're going to flip that over to Ashland because they need that help. Just my guess, I don't run those circles.
So then lobbying still is an important part to
I'm sure it is. And we're fortunate because Sandra Wilson, who's the head of the chamber and is on PD board, I mean, she kind of fulfills those roles as well, being city commissioner and mayor pro tem. And now Sandra's that great voice, and Sandra's really good at that stuff. I mean, she has that kind of voice and those kinds of connections.
I know that as a commissioner, you said that you are not very far away from the job. That means that you're thinking about the challenges. Mm-hmm. For a layperson, what are the challenges that keep you up at night?
Well, I'd be disingenuous if I didn't say that all the discussion in the public about John Lloyd Tillman. And of course for me, because I love to read history and I love especially Civil War history, it's kind of right down my alley. I mean, that's just sort of the problem that's probably most current to come up. I mean, you know, then there's always just there's the constant barrage of little things, like when you get a phone call from somebody that says, do you think the boat dock will be open during the eclipse because some friends of mine want to buy some gas? Well, so you know, you make a phone call and find out, well, yes it is or no it isn't. I frankly don't remember how that one worked out. And then whenever I come downstairs, I'm at the coffee house, you know, people love to know, well, what's the latest? What's going on? What can you tell me that I can't read in the paper? Well, I'm probably not going to tell them anything because there are just some things you probably just shouldn't talk about.
No, but you can tell me.
You're right, because you won't ever tell anybody.
I won't tell.
I know, that's right, you won't.
Television.
We'll just, you know, we'll edit that out in the cutting room.
Yes.
But there's just always, I mean, there's even things where you take the local bent to a national story. For example, this morning, I think it was this morning or last night, that Attorney General Sessions said, well, now we're going to allow police departments to buy military-grade hardware. Well, then NPR, who's one of my sources for news, said, well, they always could. They were just, you know, they couldn't buy, you know, mortars and tanks and, I guess, 155 millimeter howitzers. And I'm being somewhat facetious there. So, you know, then you all make it think, well, gee, how does that affect us? You know, is there something that we should be doing or not be doing? Because you're always thinking about kind of how that national story impacts the local.
Right.
I mean, do we need a high water truck? Well, we've got one that we got from the military at no cost, I should add. But so they're just, it comes from every direction. And then just if you just drive around town, like I'm constantly going through the north side and the south side, running errands for the store. And so you're always thinking of, I mean, at least I do, maybe just my ADD kicking in, but I'm always thinking about when I see a sign or a building or whatever, I'm thinking, well, what are we doing about that? You know, is that building going to be torn down? Is that sign necessary anymore? Because out-of-date signs are one of my real pet peeves in life.
Oh, I hate that too. As a business owner, do you feel like that the city is business friendly? That's a term that's kind of loosely thrown around. You know, is the tax base, I mean, is that good? Are taxes good? Are they too high? What do you feel about business?
Taxes have been generally, first off, there are three major, you know, the insurance tax hasn't been increased since John Perkins came, and that's been 22, 23 years. Property tax has been steadily reduced over the years. It's now about 25.5 cents per hundred. There's a payroll tax, and though some people may think it's maybe not a just tax, it actually is, because it's the one way that if you live somewhere other than the city of Paducah and you earn your living in the city of Paducah, then you get to help pay for your streets and infrastructure and all those things. So that's a good thing. So I don't find the taxes, I mean, I'm a business person, I don't find them particularly onerous. I'm pretty concerned about what may happen when our retirement programs out of Frankfurt, because we are, depending on who you believe in, from 35 to 70 billion dollars in arrears, and that's going to be tough. I mean, right now, if you are for example, if you're a firefighter or a policeman in the city of Paducah, I mean, I think we kick in something near 40% to make that fund whole. I mean, that's a pretty big, it's mid-30s anyway. I mean,
well,
so those
have a pretty generous pension fund for those folks, and
that is state mandated. I mean, it isn't necessarily it's just part of the system we're in. And when they say here's what the number is, it's kind of like Social Security, like FICA for you. You don't get to say, well, could we make a deal on that?
Right.
I don't believe we're not like Mr. Trump. We can't negotiate that. That's pretty much
That's always been a frustration of the commission, and I've known commissioners for many, many years, is the unfunded mandates that you get from the state. And now the pension thing is blowing up all over the country right now, and it's very difficult to see a solution to that.
Now, and you said what are some good things. Well, I can tell you something and come back on it. We had a mandate by the United States Corps of Engineers to do floodwall work. And the numbers, we're going to spend about $33 million, of which we're on the hook for about a third of it, about $11 million. I'm using really round numbers here, and it could be a little more than that. And so we've been really careful since all this came out in about the year 2000, that anything we've done, like slip lining some of the piping, that we always go ahead and say, now look, we're going to get credit for this, right? That we're going to get, even though we haven't gotten the mandate or from the exact numbers from the Corps of Engineers, and they've always said, yes, you get credit. So this latest thing of the floodwall pump stations, pretty timely with what's happening in Houston, that we got $1 million Community Development Block Grant, a CDBG grant. And so there's $1 million on a $4 million project. That's a pretty good deal.
That's a pretty good deal.
That's a pretty good deal.
You got to do that.
We had a lot of talented people in the city who work hard on getting those grants, and so that helps.
What other challenges do you foresee in, you talked about the pension program, infrastructure is always a big deal. You don't want a local story to go national typically unless it's really good news. What other challenges are you seeing?
I think one of the challenges for Kentucky is that we're one of the 4 states, as I understand, that the state will not permit a local government, a city, to have a sales tax. Now, I know people hate taxes, but they love services, and you can't really have one without the other, logically speaking. So, I think about things that, if the state were ever to uncap that, which I doubt they ever will, at least not in my future, that, some things you could do with a very modest tax, because think about it, probably better than half, probably my guess is probably 60% of the taxes that we could collect are from people who live somewhere else who are buying their thing in Paducah. And kind of on the heels of that, I would also say that I think the federal government and the state governments need to get their hands around this idea that if I buy it over the internet, most likely I will not pay a local sales tax into whatever state that is. And I think you're gonna have a reshifting of business. You're starting to see it. Think Sears and Kmart.
Yeah,
and here we are. We're incentivizing online purchasing from probably somewhere other than your own state, and it's kind of a terrible catch-22 for the state. Yeah, but that one's not in my. That's not in my.
I'm going to buy wherever it's the cheapest, you know. And so if I don't have to pay that tax online, I might go online.
I understand. I'm going to say that usually when I find something online, and yes, it's oftentimes a car part, I can't find it locally. It isn't serviced or sold here. I'm just thrilled to bits that I can find it, much less do I pay 6% sales tax.
Well, and I also do, you know, like to support local businesses when I can to do it. So we have some challenges and opportunities. Let's talk about the state of the city in general. Are you pleased? Are you moderately apprehensive, or are you pessimistic about the next few years?
I'm always an optimist. Now, my wife might not say that. I give you one of my favorite ones. Oftentimes there's this theme that, oh my goodness, the city just owes all this money, and if you divide it out over each person, it's so many hundreds of dollars, or I guess it's $1,000 now. Well, we don't collect tax and we don't pay our debts based on each individual person. But what I can tell you is that during this last 4.5 years since I've been around, that John Perkins, the head of finance, has gone, because of our good credit rating, he's gone back to the bond market and said, hey, we have an investment grade credit rating. We think you could do a little better and renegotiate some of our bonds. And he's trimmed off a couple $2 million of interest because we do manage our money well. And I think that's really important. Now, do we have a lot of extra money to go around? No. You can think of a great big piece of pie that keeps getting sliced ever thinner because we have some growth in our revenue, but not a lot of growth. And I mean low single digits would characterize it. But, you know, but with good, you know, I mean, Jeff Peterson, the city manager, and John Perkins, I mean, they work hard to make the numbers work. And then John goes the extra step, and I want to get down to the weeds, but like, you know, as you're in business, if you want, you can have your bookkeeper do your books. But if you want, you can go to a CPA and have an audit. And you don't have to do that, but it's a great idea because those guys really dig in. Well, as a city, we don't have to have an audit or a CAFR, but we do, and we have done it for, I think this is our 25th year, and every year we sort of send our books out and say, look, and Williams Lynch does it, and so we kind of get this extra good housekeeping seal of approval that says, yeah, you're doing the right thing, and your numbers are there, and your procedures are there. And
does that help on the credit rating too?
I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does. Just that there's no fluff in the numbers.
Right.
And that's, I mean, I get that. That's important to me. And you know, when the numbers in your city is good that way, then that puts a great deal of comfort.
Well, let me put forth one of the challenges that I see.
All right.
Rounding off, but our city population about 24,000?
Well, no, it actually, like in the spring, there was some kind of an intermediate census that actually picked up 100 so people, and we finally struggled back over 25,000.
Really?
Yes.
Well, that's good, because my perception is we've been losing population for some years.
And we have, Tom.
Even here at the college where we're doing this interview today, you know, we need enrollment, but enrollment is based on population and the region and many factors. How What do you think Paducah offers that would, and an interesting story is, you know, we did some interviews with students, and 10 out of 10 of them said, when I graduate, I'm leaving town. Now,
well, my daughter did that. My daughter did that. And she went to Boston. And she came back to the coffee house. I mean, you've asked the $64,000 question. I mean, think about the things that our town of 25,000, but it's really, I mean, our county is, that's the 40, we're 65,000. The micropolitan statistical area is 96,000. So it's not an inconsequential number. So I think about all the things we have. You know, I mean, we have one of 4 art house movie theaters, the Maiden Center. We have a symphony. We have a 1,700-seat auditorium. We have one of the top community colleges in the nation. I mean, we just tick it off. We have a TV station. We have an airport that has jet service. I mean, you can just tick it off thing after thing, whether it's 2 distilleries and 2 microbreweries. I mean, just thing after thing after thing. And so what I think is that why wouldn't a company want to move here? Railroads, airport, the inland waterway system. It's all here. And kind of the cool part is that whether you're Allan Rhodes or Tom Butler, you know, you're a fairly decent-sized fish in a fairly small pond, so you can probably put your mind to it, have some kind of an impact. Because if you and I moved to Nashville, Tennessee, they'd say, okay, who are you?
So you're saying it's a
yeah, I don't
perception
understand.
problem?
I don't know what it is, but I look around at all the things we offer.
Because that's the criticism I hear from the young kids. And I'm not young, so
well, you're just young at heart.
I'm perfectly happy living in this area, and I think it's a great place to live, but they say there's nothing to do. And
well, my guess is that's because they
don't want to do it.
They don't try. I mean, I think about the music scene between Nashville and St. Louis. I mean, there are venues galore of music. Here again, at the Maiden, I mean, there's just all kinds of music out there. I mean, again, I wish I understood it. I've often wondered if it just simply mattered that you're 250 miles west of Frankfort, and it's, oh yeah, Paducah. Yeah, I was there once. I mean, we're UNESCO City. We're getting around the same quote. I mean, we have exposure, and we punch far above our weight, in my humble opinion, and I don't get it.
Speaking of UNESCO, I'm not sure I understand all about that, but what does that, to you, what does that mean that we're a UNESCO city?
I'm embarrassed. I'm a little bit like you are, Tom. I guess I can't be expected to know everything.
I know it's a good thing.
And it's a good thing. And it's a great honor. And I know that we're going to have UNESCO for the arts and crafts. We're going to have a worldwide meeting here of several hundred people. Mary Hammond, I'm sure, or Fowler or Laura could do a whole story on this and do it in song and verse. So I guess I'm going to defer to them. Well, but I'd rather be this than not be this. It's kind of like, it's like my guess is that every 2 weeks, somebody's written an article because they came to Paducah and said, wow, what a cool downtown, or what a gem of a little city. You got all this stuff going on. Well, I mean, we're going to make it. We're going to be okay. Well, we have issues, but
let's talk about some good things for the last 2 or 3 minutes we've got here. And this hasn't been bad. I'm just, I'm interested in knowing the challenges that we face as a city, and
that last one's a frustrating one.
Yeah.
It is.
So you mentioned we got a new hotel.
Yeah.
I can't remember, a much bigger business, much bigger event, and that is in support of the other new good thing that you mentioned, which is a second quilt show. Yeah. What do those things mean to our citizens?
Well, of course, it's all positive. Now, I give you the one caveat when I said, remember, Paducah, Kentucky cannot have a sales tax. So when all these hordes of people come in, you say, well, what is the direct? Well, there's the benefit that it presents our city well, and it has a lot of activity. But if you think about it, unless there's a new store that feeds those people, or a server or person who works for those people who pays a payroll tax, or there's more business, or there's more business license tax. In other words, our benefit is sort of indirect. I mean, think about it. If you had 30,000 quilters that each came and spent $100, you got 1% sales tax on that, you'd send a direct benefit, and most states have that. We're just one of 4 that doesn't. But it's still a great thing. So no complaints.
Just no direct, I mean, other than you're a business person, you make more money because there are more people.
So if we make more money, we pay more tax, basically, yes.
Anything else on the horizon looking up that you want to talk about before we have to end our interview today?
No, I will say this. I think it's interesting that it appears that Menards is going to come to town, and after all that hoopla about, that San Antonio development is going to demand more incentives and this, that, and the other, that largely it sounds like they're going to come to town, and like Lowe's and Home Depot and Cole Lumber Company and everybody else, and they'll build their building and join the parade and be on that level playing field. New
Dairy Queen on the South Side. I saw that the other day.
And I'm always mystified when people say, why doesn't the city encourage this new business to come to the South Side? Well, ultimately, the person has to say, I want to build a Dairy Queen on the South Side.
Right. I live in Reedland. I'm like, please bring some nice restaurants to Reedland.
But I'm not sure the city's business is to encourage retail in that kind of way. But anyway.
Gotcha. Thank you very much for agreeing to come in and share your wisdom and insight with us and to the citizens of Paducah. Thank you for your service as Commissioner. And that'll be it for today. You've been watching City Profile with Commissioner Allan Rhodes. I'm Tom Butler. We'll see you again next time.